Before we start this podcast, we want to offer one bonus hot tip for your YouTube career. Make sure you hit record.
Enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the BrickSide Chat podcast, where we take your questions and turn them into conversations. My name is Evan.
And I'm Paul.
And today, we're going to be discussing YouTube and using YouTube as a marketing tool for your small business.
Yeah, one of the questions that we get asked the most, or maybe not the most, but a question we get asked frequently enough that we've noted it, is whether or not the YouTube channel makes more than the business. And I'm going to start off by answering that question so we can lose all of our views. And that is no, it does not. The YouTube channel makes a tiny percentage of what the store makes, like almost a not easily countable percentage. It's very small. But does that mean that it doesn't have value? That's the question. And the answer is going to be kind of complicated. And it's not the only thing we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be kind of broadening this a bit more, not just about us, but what we've learned from having a YouTube channel and whether or not a YouTube channel is in general going to be a good idea for any business. And we're also going to be talking about YouTube as a standalone business and whether or not it's worth starting a YouTube channel just as a standalone profit generating thing, completely separate from any other business that you may own. I already kind of answered whether or not it is cash out valuable for us. The answer is no. But
not for the time dedication.
Correct. If it only took a couple minutes to make a video, it would be worth it. But in general, it's not. And there's a couple reasons for that. For those of you who don't know a lot about YouTube, there's a couple factors that are going to go into determining whether or not you're going to have a decent payout. And one of those is basically, I think it's CRT, although I always mix up the acronym there. But basically, it's how much payout per click on ads you get. CRM, thank you. And for our channel, it is actually decently high. The issue, though, is our audience is kind of small, and that's something we're going to talk about later. So when building a YouTube channel, you need to be aware of that number and how it's going to influence your payout. But for us, we're okay with that. I mean, we would like, obviously, to make more money. We don't have anything against making money. But for us, the main value comes in the soft assets of the business, which is kind of the audience penetration of a good deal of the BrickLink audience watches our videos. I mean, we don't know that for certain, but based off of people who comment on our orders saying, that they like it, and how many people are in our Discord, Humble Flex 600. There are a lot of people who are in our business sphere who watch our channel, and it helps us kind of gather data and a lot of other things that we're going to be talking about. But the direct marketing capacity of our channel in terms of I guess how many orders come through from the channel is another question we get a lot. It's about 3%.
Well, it's 3% that we know of, because out of our last 200 orders, we just did this calculation. 3% of our last 200 orders had a message on it that said, "Hey, love your channel," whatever. We see that here and there. The real question that we have not a great idea how to answer is what percentage of people found us through YouTube or saw us on YouTube or whatever. Maybe they just recognized the Just a Brick in the Bucket name somehow, and that's what causes them to purchase, but they don't leave a message. Because I'm sure it's a higher percentage of people than the 3% of people who definitely came from YouTube because they saw the channel. But we don't have a good understanding of that. And that's kind of that question as to like marketing cost. It's not financially worth it for us to put in, let's say, 10 hours a week of work for the YouTube channel for whatever return it gives us that week. But is it worth it in the other, in the $500 worth of orders we got that week because of YouTube? And this is something that I would love to be able to figure out, but I don't know how. But we've talked about this for a very long time, just in terms of like us trying to figure out our YouTube, shooting / posting schedule. Like, do we want to do shorts? Do we want to do longer, podcast type style things, or do we want to do the normal vlog videos and stuff? And it's really difficult to pinpoint where the viewership comes from, and if they're actually going to head over to our store to make a purchase, or if they're just going to sit and watch the video and not do anything.
Yeah, and right now that is kind of the strategy we're going with, is long form content and shorts. The shorts actually have pretty high penetration in terms of they get out a lot. They get out a lot, and a lot of people see them. And that's at least where I'm hoping a lot of people will get referred to the store, because most of the people that watch your videos are other sellers. And there is a pretty high crossover between hobby and seller in our niche here, but I expect that it's probably a lot lower than if we were advertising directly only to buyers.
Right.
So we're hoping with the shorts, there's kind of a bit more penetration there, where people who might not have heard even of BrickLink will see the short and be like, oh, that's interesting. Because we do a lot of these, I don't want to call our own content clickbaity, but it's, oh, where did this fig come from? Or very short little tutorials that if you're a seller might have some value, but we probably have a long form video that's going to go into it in more detail.
Right.
But it does grab your attention, and it usually looks pretty good, except for YouTube's short compression. And
right.
It's hoping to kind of pull in some people who then will investigate further and go check out the store with the shorts.
The hard thing with the shorts is there's not a good way to like push people directly to a thing. There's not a link you can click in the description or the title or anything. It's like, if you want to go find out more about whatever this is, you kind of have to go to that person's channel and then maybe click another video and then find their store. So the shorts might get your name out there, but it's really difficult to direct them directly to a place in terms of where they're trying to go. And then with the shorts as well, you're limited to 60 seconds, which is great. However, we'll talk about storytelling in a little bit, but in terms of quote unquote telling a story in that 60 seconds, that's a pretty hard thing to do. But the shorts are so popular because in the age of TikTok and whatever, everyone's used to those really short videos. Attention spans are at an all-time low. In terms of like the people that when you're trying to create content, it's so easy to sit and scroll through 100 shorts over the course of an hour or whatever, versus you can only maybe watch 3 or 4 videos in an hour. And in our specific niche, I think we're still in that market of a lot of the people who are here are not younger people. They're not younger than us for the most part. There's a few, of course, but most of them are still in that age of they're used to watching a piece of content versus a 10-second short. So hopefully with the shorts now, we're able to get our market out there a little bit into those people who are looking at something that are like, they just want to sit and scroll through stuff on their phone versus sit down and watch a video for 20 minutes. However, we're also doing the extreme opposite of that, like we are right now, where we're creating 45-minute to an hour and 15 long podcast episodes that, you can sit and watch on YouTube, or you can listen to it on a podcast platform or whatever, but it's a drastically different form of content that we're also delivering to those people.
Yeah, but I think with the long form content, especially this podcast, we had just talked before about the YouTube channel not being profitable. I think the longer form content is at least a little bit more designed to fix that. Because I feel like a lot of people that watch this podcast, at least because we try to generalize it so much, we are definitely trying to get it out there. And we don't necessarily expect that everyone that watches this podcast is going to go buy on our store. Obviously, it'd be wonderful if people wanted to go buy on our store, but I don't really think that's the point of this podcast.
No, you're totally right. This is not a marketing tool to get people to our store, where I think for us, for shorts, to a degree, that is expanding our audience in a more linear direction of customers who might purchase from us. Yeah,
because we are trying to expand the YouTube channel to be more profitable, because obviously we would like to make money on the channel. And I think this podcast, obviously we actually do enjoy it. Part of the reason why this whole podcast came about is making videos is really tough. Mm-hmm. And you run out of ideas. These podcasts are easy. And they're fun. Like, we actually enjoy doing these podcasts. versus making videos. Not to say that we don't enjoy them, but
I mean, we both have different opinions on that.
Yeah. I think it varies video to video. There are some videos you really like making.
Right.
There are some videos I'd really like making, but it's about producing content regularly. So just like any business, and we're going to talk about this more later, there are going to be some tasks that you don't enjoy. For example, I personally am not a huge fan of making shorts. I think Evan likes making shorts. At least it sounds like you like making shorts from what you say.
Yeah, it's a different. In my life, I've never made content like that. I've always come from a very traditional world of like long form content where you're creating a piece of work that is, could be a feature. It's an hour and a half long or whatever. So the shorts are something so different, which I think right now is why I enjoy, putting them together. Come back in a year, my opinion might be different.
Yeah, for me, I find them really, really hard. But that's kind of off topic. But so these podcasts are kind of in and of themselves. So they might be a little bit of an outlier, or they are trying to build, I guess, another side of the brand of Just a Brick in the Bucket, as a business, because we have such a large market on the channel of other business owners that there is definitely a niche there. Whereas the shorts are more targeted towards people that we want to come shop at the store. And obviously, if you found us through a short, we are glad to have you here. We're not trying to say, oh, those short people, we don't want them here. That's not at all what we're trying to say. It's just they're designed as entry points, right? We're assuming that people are going to find, or we're hoping that people will find this podcast out of the blue, and we're also hoping that people will find the shorts out of the blue. Mm-hmm. And that they will kind of be their own content magnets. And that's something we're going to talk about in terms of knowing your audience and trying to build for your niche.
Right. Yeah, and we've talked about the types of content. I think there's three main ones. There's shorts, which we're experimenting with now. There's your traditional content, which is, I would say, anywhere from your 8 to 15 minute long videos, and then I think there's your really long form content like we're doing now. And then there's also live streams, which is kind of an interesting one. We've dabbled, actually everyone knows we used to do a lot of live streams. I think we used to do it every week.
We did.
Like every Saturday or something like that for a while. However, we've toned that back to like once every month or so.
Or so.
For a variety of reasons. Live streams don't have the highest view count. It's a little bit less of a professional production. It's difficult for us to multitask while on a live stream, which is was most of our main reason. But I think it's still critically important to our brand and what we do, because it's that interaction that you can get with an audience that you just don't get in the comment section. If people are joining into your live stream, you're talking with them, you're doing whatever, you're partying up, whatever you're doing, and they're having an actual discussion with you, it's very different. It's much cooler. So I think from a perspective of a business that is so focused on the people who are part of the community, which is really what we're in a community, and that community is what helps kind of support us and the channel specifically. I think it's critical that you interact with them like we do in a live stream format. However, we've also found there's much more value when we do it once a month versus doing it every week. When you do it every week, it's something that's normal. It doesn't feel special. It just becomes boring. When you do it once a month, now there's some value to that one Saturday or first or whatever it is, where people can come in and tune in and they're interested, and there's different discussion points and stuff. And it's not the same thing over and over and over every week in and out. But I think those are probably the four main ones, unless you can think of another one. There's obviously all the markets within YouTube and stuff. But we need to, what are some of the pros and cons of doing YouTube? We'll start with the cons. I think the list of cons in general is probably a lot longer than the list of pros when you start out, especially.
Yes. And I do want to give a note that I've kind of limited this list to cons that we have experienced, because I wanted to be able to give our input here. Same thing with the pros. I wanted to be able to say, like, this is a pro that we have encountered and here's how we've leveraged it. And here is a con that we've encountered and here's how we've dealt with it. So there are going to be more. And if we can think of any at the end, we'll go ahead and, like, not at the end of the whole show, but I mean just at the end of this little section, we can throw them in and be like, hey, these are some other cons that you might encounter. But kind of first up, I'm limiting it to stuff that we've personally experienced, because this first one especially is not going to be true for people that are doing YouTube as a business and that is their primary source of income. At least I would hope not. And that is that it takes a lot of time for very little cash reward. The way, if we were paying ourselves 100% of our YouTube revenue, our wage would be, in California, it wouldn't be legal. So we'll just.
You mean for the hours that it takes to create a video?
Correct.
Right.
So for us, like I said in the very beginning, YouTube is not worth it just looking at from a bottom line perspective. And that is definitely a con, because it means that every time we're working on a video, we have to be doing this complex algebra in our head. Not actually, but it feels like that, where we are trying to calculate whether it's worth it. And that was part of why we stopped doing live streams all the time, besides not just being special, is if we spend 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon every week working at 1/8 productivity cataloging something while making an error every 5 pieces, that is not only costing us 3 hours, it's also that work is not getting done well. There's errors in it. It's increasing the cost of fixing those errors. Buying sets to build, right? A Chow and Chats, the Wingstop bill, right? There's all those kinds of things that you don't really think about. And there's also then the setup time and the teardown time that has to be calculated into this as well. So we kind of realize we're losing basically a whole day of the week, because also...
Well, you're losing, I would say, 2 work days out of the month if you're doing it weekly.
In total.
Now, of course, you're technically, depending what you're doing, you might be doing work, but like you mentioned, that work productivity, like there was a while where we were trying cataloging on streams, and we eventually said, no, we can't do that. So we've now gone completely back to saying, okay, we will B-sort on a stream. That'll be the most productive thing we'll do. However, it's going to be something easy like bricks, or it's not even going to be complex, because there's too many details that you need to look at, and trying to interact with an audience and doing those very detailed things is incredibly difficult. It costs too much money, or it costs too much time and potentially money later when there's a mistake made, and then it costs because the customer gets the wrong piece or whatever it might be.
Exactly. And there's also the fact, and maybe this is kind of a just get over it, but streaming is really exhausting. And it's not saying it's not fun. Just like you can go hang out with friends and be exhausted, but you still had fun. Streaming is fun, but it is also very tiring. And so a lot of times, it's a bit less so now, but when we were doing the stream super regularly and we were trying to do something complicated while on the stream, at the end of the stream, we'd just be done.
Right. The brain power it takes to
lay down on the floor,
catalog and interact with a group of 30, 40, 50 people, however many are on the stream. That's a difficult thing to do.
It is. And there were so many times where we would just fall down on the floor. We would have this list of things like, oh, we're going to get all this done, and it just wouldn't happen. So at the end, when we were kind of tapering down the streams, it ended up basically being that the stream was essentially the end of the day. And we kind of knew that.
Right. And we've tried a ton of different time slots too, but we really did shift it towards quote unquote the end of the day. 2 o'clock, we stream for a couple hours. 4 o'clock, that's the end of the day. We'll clean up the stream stuff, and that's it for Saturday. That's going to be it. And most of the productive work hopefully got done that morning.
Yeah, and we realized that really just wasn't worth the time. And once again, this is for us. Obviously, streaming is a very lucrative market, or you would not have all of the millionaire Twitch streamers and stuff, right? So I just want to reiterate that this is for us, and I'm looking at this section more as if you are a business wanting to start a YouTube channel for the purposes of having a YouTube channel maybe as an alternate income source or as a marketing gimmick, I guess. I did air quotes there, as in gimmick. Then this is something that you should be aware of in terms of live streams. They are exhausting unless you're super extroverted. Evan and I are both, pretty introverted. And so if you're a super extroverted, outgoing personality, it might be totally different, and you come out of that stream super energized and ready to work. Mm-hmm. But for us, at least, super exhausting. Another big con, at least for me personally, is...
For YouTube in general?
for certain types of content, I actually really like these podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this is the kind of content. If we did these podcasts or podcasts like this all the time, I think I would enjoy that a lot. But for making videos and especially shorts, for me, I find it really frustrating. I really struggle to, especially editing something. I think Evan might agree here because I know he's not a huge fan of editing either.
Post-production sucks. We'll get there in a minute too, but yeah.
For me, it's super frustrating. And then also looking at a script, especially shorts, trying to figure out how to get it to loop well. And I mean, I like writing. I used to write scripts a lot, but for taking this high information density thing where there is an art to it, it's just not the kind of art that I'm good at. And to me, that makes it really frustrating because I might spend an hour, 2 hours trying to figure out how to write this script and then trying to record it and then line up the audio and post, making sure that when I move, because in the shorts, it's all about timing because they've got this super fast beat to them where you're talking, if you're moving the camera to emphasize something and your movements don't line up with the voice, which is recorded after, by the way, then you've got a problem. And for me, that's something I struggle with, partially because I'm just not a professional at it, right? So I'm having to figure out all these things. So to me, it can be a little frustrating. And if you enjoy being detail oriented or you have experience making videos, then I bet a lot of that stuff would go away. But if you are the kind of person who just likes to show up, do it, go home, or you're an on the wing or off the cuff kind of person, which I'm very much an off the cuff kind of person, right? I would like to just sit down, write a script, shoot it, that's it. It's going to be very hard to overcome that and instead plan everything out. And for me, it can be kind of frustrating. That's not to say that I'm not happy with the product. It is that kind of frustration where at the end I'm like, I'm glad I did it. But in the moment, right, I struggle with it. So that's something to be aware of, is it can be frustrating. And then a second part of frustration can be is you might actually really enjoy making something. And this has happened to both of us. And it might be your baby video, right? The video that you love. You spent all these hours on it and you actually poured a lot of care into it. And it just flops.
Right.
And it's just awful, like the ISS, right? I think that was a little passion project for you and Kyle way back.
Yeah. That was fun. But
I think it's also our worst performing
video. It was also,
video.
At the time it was, but also, I mean, I don't know what it is now, but it was also something we had done when we had less than 200 subs. So I don't entirely know. It's such a hard one because it was cool. It was fun. It was different. If you really want to and you're on YouTube or you're listening to this, go type in International Space Station or ISS on our YouTube channel, and it's something way probably from March or April of 2020. Actually, no, it would have been like March. It was early 2020. Maybe it was February. I don't know. And it was this little build video we did, and it didn't, it was not in the little niche that we were already in, which was BrickLink specifically. I wanted to do something a little different. And, it didn't turn out. And a lot of time was spent on that, not really to shoot, but a lot of effort was put in, I suppose. There were multiple cameras. It was cut together differently. The post was hard. But, I think it's a cool video. Is it the most entertaining? No, probably not. But it just wasn't within our niche. So, that's a hard thing too, which is there's definitely frustration in that. It's like, okay, let's try something new. And you try it and you love it, but it doesn't turn out. And that's something with YouTube. Another big con is sometimes it's just such a shot in the dark. It's like, let's throw 10 things at the wall and see what sticks.
Now,
and sometimes all 10 might not stick.
Correct.
And it's like, uh-oh. It's a lot of luck based.
Now, I will counter there with one thing is usually if you can isolate why the one thing worked, it will continue to work. I will say that. So it's not entirely luck in terms of every time you upload a video, you have no idea. It's uploading content that you haven't studied, right? Because we know this podcast does decent. We know that, or at least we used to know, part out parties did decent, different things like
that. Haul
that.
videos were always incredibly popular. Yeah. Picking orders was relatively popular. A lot of the things we don't do anymore were relatively popular. One of the biggest things was the vlog. People really, really enjoyed the weekly vlog. I think we at one point tried to go monthly.
Vlogs are hard.
But it was one of those things where it's just it slows down the entirety of the day.
Yeah.
Versus let's make a video and I'm going to spend 3 hours this day making a video instead of, okay, I need to remember to take this 1 minute vlog segment. And it's like all those things, and then you do something and you have to move some stuff. You know, one of the things with the vlogs for us was there are internal things that we are doing or might have that, you know, we don't want to show for some reason or whatever. You know, making sure maybe Brick Freedom's not up on the screen so you can see our sale, like little things like that we had to constantly think about. You know, we got the Instabrick thing a long time ago, long time ago. They like emailed us about it. And for a short period of time, we were like, we don't want to share that. So we had a little box that we would put over the Instabrick. Like little things like that are just so small that become, once you have a list of 10 of them, they're so tedious. You know, it might be like, oh, we have, I don't even know.
And all it takes is, and this is a con of trade secrets, and this goes for any business, of all it takes is one mess up. The viewers, and I'm sorry, viewers, but I do it too, will pause, go frame by frame if they think something is interesting there in order to figure it out. There is someone out there who will do that. And so it only takes one mess up, right?
And it's not usually malicious either.
No.
The issue is you have accidentally left something in a video and someone now sees it. And if they ask you about it, you can't just not say anything. Then it's weird. So then it's like, okay, well, yeah, here it is, whatever. And now we'll say trade secret, whatever, is out there. Because it has to be, because you left it in a video, which is entirely your fault. And if you
people are curious.
Yeah,
I mean, I do it too.
And at that point, you're not going to lie. You know, you have to tell the truth as to whatever. So it's a weird thing. But that's for sure a con of if you have trade secrets. Not that we don't like the Instabrick. It really wasn't.
No, but at the time it was pretty revolutionary.
Right. And I don't remember when we got it.
We didn't even, actually, it had some issues. So it didn't actually get used that much.
It wasn't
but obviously
perfect,
now Brickignize and stuff exists, so it's totally fine to talk about. But although we still do use it, but now it's our Brickignize
We use
station.
the Instabrick camera thing, but we just don't use it with the Instabrick software. But yeah, like there were things like that we had with vlogs that made it difficult to continue putting together because it was just so tedious to hide everything. And then you have now 100 clips. You have to put them on the timeline. You have to cut them together. And then you have to equalize the audio. It was so tedious to put together this little thing. Theoretically, it's easy, but it ends up not being easy. And again, we've now poured 3, 4, 5 hours into this vlog, which I could have made a regular video how-to thing for in 2 or 3 hours. So it's like this weird balance, plus the potential to accidentally leak whatever,
Yeah, there's a lot of risk for us, very little reward. Now, that said, there are other BrickLink channels who have vlogs who do really well.
Yeah, Pop's Block Shop. His vlogs, very, very, very popular. He does really long-form ones, too. I think they're a little shorter than they used to be, and I don't want to, I don't remember how often he's posting now, but, people just really love seeing the everyday tasks.
Yeah.
Oh, shipping labels. That was always a frustration. We'd print out a shipping label, and it's like, okay, we made this video, we have this shot. Oh no, there's shipping labels that you can read, and like so many things like that. Customer information on the screen. Those are all the things that just are so tedious.
Yeah. And then, employees gotta sign video release forms in case they get in a shot.
Some people don't want to be on camera, which made it a little challenging.
You have to respect that. At least in California, I don't know if this is a national thing, but if someone doesn't want to be on video, that's the end of it, right? You have to get them to sign something.
I mean, technically, anyone who works for us, I think, signed.
Yeah, they do.
But like, you still want to be respectful of them not wanting to be on, even if they've signed something that says they can be. It's like you don't want to make them mad or anything. So. We've talked about a lot of cons.
Yeah. So
so right now it sounds like we've dug this hole and it's like there's no reason YouTube is worth it ever. There obviously is.
So we're gonna start with a middle between a con and a pro, which is we don't really know how many people it directs to our store. We have done surveys before, but it varies. So annoys me how listeners can't see. See with your ears, please. I'm trying to do like a wave pattern with my hand here. Different surveys return vastly different results. So maybe it fluctuates. Who knows? But the point is, we don't really know how many people, like a solid number as to how many people find our store through the YouTube channel. And that, for someone who doesn't maybe have the Just a Brick in the Bucket brand name already established, where we do YouTube. So because at this point, it's kind of, not that we don't enjoy it, but at this point it's kind of a Just a Brick in the Bucket does YouTube. If we just stopped one day, it would not be good. But if you haven't already built that and you're looking at this in terms of, I want to build a YouTube channel to direct people to my store, I can't really give you a number as to the success of that. We can estimate that 3% from people that leave comments, but most people don't leave comments on messages, right? So on orders, yeah. So I bet you it's a lot higher, but I can't prove that.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Yeah, but it is also kind of a pro, because if it is closer to some of the numbers that we think, right, maybe 15, 20, something around there, then at least that's my kind of just random guess, then that is a sizable percentage of
even
sales.
10%.
Yeah,
which, even 5%, well, 5's a little low, but like if we estimate between 6 and 10%, that's I think, in terms of dollar amount, of course, for what we make in a month, 10% of that probably worth it for YouTube when you add the YouTube revenue itself. Then I think we're at a balance where it's just on the cusp of making sense. If it is that 20%, then it's for sure worth it. I don't personally think it's that high. I think that's too high. I think so many things are like wanted list orders and people don't even know who we are.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's definitely another thing that we don't know is like return customers. They've come once because they found the channel. Now they've ordered 17, 18 times from us. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's so hard.
So if you are another business, maybe not even Lego related, and you're looking to start something to get people to your store, I can't give you a solid number on that, but I would say that if you can create engaging content and you can relate it more directly to your buyers than we can, because the content that we produce on the channel, we already talked about this, is kind of a little bit different than our buyers, right? Because our buyers are buying Lego, whereas on the YouTube channel, we're essentially making business advice and how to run a BrickLink store. And there is overlap. There's a lot of overlap, but it's not 100% overlap. Mm-hmm. And so if you were able to market your product, not just by making advertisements, but if you, let's just say we're a cabinet store, and you did cabinet reviews. We're bringing back, Evan's thing, and you did cabinet reviews, right? Or something like that, where maybe people would end up at your store, or even better, if you did cabinet reviews and you made cabinet hinges, right? Because that way you don't get this kind of weird, like, conflict of interest there, right? But if you were doing something like that, so that way people would have a reason to come trust you and buy your stuff, right? Then maybe you would have a higher conversion rate there. But so that's why it's a pro and a con, mm-hmm. right? If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a weird middle ground. We don't know if it's a pro or a con in terms of you don't know. Maybe it's really good for all the people that are coming. Maybe you're wasting all your time, and that's a problem because you don't know how many people are coming to your store. Yeah.
Exactly.
But let's transition to the actual pros now. Yeah. One of the biggest ones I think for us, just in having the YouTube channel and starting to build this community, is we now have like access to opportunities, networking opportunities, a lot of things that we pretty much guarantee. Had we not started the YouTube channel, I pretty much guarantee we would not be in the community very much.
No.
Like I'm sure I'd be part of the BrickLink Discord maybe. I don't even know. But it'd be nowhere near the amount that we are now with all the people that we get to talk to and all the people that come to us and stuff. So there's a lot of opportunities that we get just having created a name for ourselves, and people recognize the name. Simple things like people reach out to us when they're selling a store or whatever because they just know, they might buy it. Like things like that we wouldn't be getting
or publicity access to those places where buyers do congregate. We've been on BrickSlingers, we've been on other podcasts, we've done interviews, and we've also had the exclusive ability to build trust with other large sellers who share some information. Right? I'm obviously not gonna give too much information here, but there have been lots of times where we have been able to compare numbers and get a better idea as to how the whole industry is going. And if we had not established that trust of being hopefully honest people, on our channel, then I doubt any of those, we would not have made the friends, right? Sometimes, genuine friends across the industry that we have now. And we would definitely have never flown out to meet David and Chris, on our vlog. We never would have had David come out here. We never would have shared any information with any of those people. There's just so many things. People email us about stuff, right? So asking to try products and stuff that we never would have had any kind of access to if we had not had the YouTube channel, because that influencer street cred, I guess, helps establish some trust. And I think that's been the most direct and tangible bonus that the YouTube channel has given us. It's given us a lot of opportunities that have almost immediately been able to realize as direct cash returns, right? In terms of sourcing too, one of our major sourcers would not have probably found us if we had not run the YouTube channel, and they give really good stuff. And so we would never have had access to that,
even
kind
our
of top
older
quality
sources,
stock.
like almost all of our main people that we've gone through to source pieces have come from us being part of a community.
Exactly.
Which is just, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Like, of course, one of the ones we have right now is, but even our
old guy.
Yeah, like,
who's I think still in the Discord.
Yeah.
But there have been, and so we would not have gotten uncut, finding uncut Lego,
wow.
which means it hasn't been touched. For anyone not in the business, that means I know, right? Not in the business means the expensive stuff hasn't been already pulled out. It's completely untouched.
Which also has its pros and cons.
Its pros and cons. Sometimes you find a lot of weird stuff, but it also means that the super high-end stuff that's going to get people to your store has not been pulled out by someone. It's really hard to find. And we have people that we've met through the YouTube channel who are able to get us a pretty consistent supply of that regularly. And that would not have happened if we hadn't gone through the channel, if we hadn't had the channel. So I would say the networking opportunities and watching other YouTubers as well, who I follow, who aren't even in the business sphere, at least not directly, watching how they network and all of the collabs and stuff, the networking and the trust that builds between creators is definitely, in my opinion, one of the most tangible, intangible assets.
Yeah.
And also this record of trust that you build is always going to be there, right? Unless something really bad happens and you delete your YouTube channel or something like that, you're always going to be able to look back on the YouTube channel and refer people to it. Even if you don't post that much anymore, if the videos are still there and someone has a question about your brand, you can refer them to the YouTube channel and it kind of says, yes, I am legitimate. I have actually been around the block because my posting history goes back 10 years, right? I've been posting videos on YouTube 10 years, and you guys can see how the store has evolved. We haven't been posting for 10 years. It's just an example. But
well, and just from a personal perspective too, I love the fact that it's like we can go back and be like, where were we, right, in August of 2021 or whatever it is,
because we don't take photos. We're awful at it.
Yeah, and you lose things just in your memory, and like, so it's cool to be able to go back and be like, wow, that's where we were, like that's how much we made, to see where we're at now, or we're like, whoa, how many things have changed. It's really cool just from a personal perspective being able to do that.
And I think not that long ago, I think when, like, I guess drink nights with friends, we pulled up some old videos or something and we all watched. I swear we were sitting on the couch or something.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but yeah.
It was like, wow, I had forgotten just how timid Evan was.
So much changes. Right, because we went back to like the first and second video where, the first like 6 videos on the channel, I don't think I showed my face or something.
Yeah.
And it was like so quiet and yeah, it's we've evolved too, for
Yeah.
sure, like 100%.
It's just so weird, and that record is something that's never going to go away, hopefully. And I guess is the benefit of the internet is forever is you have conclusive proof of all of this stuff that's happened, and if you want to leverage that, it's there and available. Which, if you just run a brick and mortar store and you have almost no online presence, you're going to have a really hard time proving that you exist. Right? I mean, obviously, legally you can prove you exist, but to the wider world, saying that I'm reputable and people have trusted me for all of this time, right, is going to be a lot harder without, comment history and a friendly face that goes back all of these years.
I don't think that's generally a thing where people are like, oh, I need to make sure you are a thing. Like, of course, sometimes, but I think the biggest thing is you can see where your product's coming from.
Yeah.
You can see the people who are making the work happen to get whatever the thing you receive as a customer is. And to me, that is so valuable and really cool. Obviously, I don't see that a lot, but like it is cool to see those companies that have faces associated with this product that they're receiving. And you can see if you order from us and you see our little business card and it says YouTube on it, and you go check it out, we actually get a lot of emails that are like, hey, I looked at your YouTube because I saw it in your order, which is cool. And they go and follow it and look at it, and then they now have this understanding of seeing our process, understanding how it gets to them, and it's so much. I find it very valuable as a customer to be able to see that process,
the name
and the people who are behind it.
The name on the email, if someone has a problem, isn't just some random customer service agent that they don't know. It's if they've seen the YouTube channel, they can attach a face to that, and hopefully they can know that like a real person is trying to help them, right? And I think that is invaluable, as well as like what you had said about having this emotional connection.
Right. I think that's more of what it is, to be honest, than like there being a different name on the email. There's a company that does this called Bulk Reef Supply, and I wouldn't say they're similar to us in any way, except for the fact that they have a YouTube channel and they have a main store where they sell products. I would say, though, in terms of probably percentage of revenue and stuff that the YouTube channel makes, they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and stuff on YouTube, but percentage-wise that we receive of revenue from YouTube in terms of revenue that comes from the store, it's probably similar-ish to what they have. Their store makes so much more. But their YouTube is really a marketing tool for them. And again, you can see the people. Now, they're a big enough company where they have hundreds of employees or maybe not that much, but however many. So it's like I know that it's not that person who I'm seeing on the channel picking my order in the warehouse or whatever, but you still get that sense of like it's this friendly business. And something I talked to you right at the beginning was they also have multiple channels. So like there's a niche, like we are in the BrickLink niche. I'm trying to think of how we would spread out in terms of different channels. Maybe we want to open a generic Lego channel that's just like specifically only, I don't know, building sets or something. If we attach the Just a Brick in the Bucket name to it, that's going to be a better association than if we just attached a brand new name to it. So it's similar to what Bulk Reef Supply does. They have multiple channels that do different things, but their name's on every channel. So your brand is incredibly important, and that gives you that recognition kind of in anything else you want to go out and do if you've built that up with YouTube. That was a long tangent for what I was trying to get at. I don't know if that made sense or not.
No, I understand.
But it's much, much better in terms of building a name for yourself, I guess, than if you didn't have a YouTube channel. Obviously, you don't need a YouTube channel, but if you really want to get yourself out there and give yourself something like a strong name like that, that would be a better way to do it. I think YouTube's a great way to do it.
No, I agree.
It's free. Same with all social media, I guess. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, really any of those out there. I think Facebook's on its way out and stuff, but any of the big ones that are still current, and obviously TikTok's the really big one, you can really advertise and get your name out there, which is, I think, the biggest thing we've been able to do with YouTube. And from our name, we've been able to build the community. We've been able to try other things. We get these quote-unquote exclusive things but it's because of the name recognition. If we went and started a new business with nothing related to Just a Brick in the Bucket and we call it something completely different, it'd be hard. It'd be really hard. But having another business that is somehow related to Just a Brick in the Bucket would be beneficial, I think.
Yeah. Because it's already got that kind of brand assurance, and it's already got I forget what the you're the marketing expert here.
Sure.
What is it called when you have customers who actively advertise for you? Not like you pay
affiliate
them.
type?
No, not like you pay them. But
I don't
customer
know.
Is a specific term for like customers who are so thrilled about your brand that they actively go out and talk about you to other brand evangelists or something like that, right? It's someone who you don't pay, someone who you might not even know, but it's that one customer who's so thrilled that they rep you. And if you transfer to another niche or you start another business, some of those people are going to jump ship purely because they are going to jump over to that brand as well, even if it's not a product they're interested in, purely because they like you so much. And so you already start with this user base, and you already start with people out there who are going to actively spread the word and say, hey, these people are quality. I know whatever they make, regardless of what it is going to be worth it. And I know I always bring this up all the time because I love him, but Linus Tech Tips it does that same thing. He has a custom gaming PC building company now, which is totally different than, Tech Tips online, and he owns a streaming platform as well. He owns a whole bunch of different stuff, and it has the Linus Tech Tips name, right? You know that customer service, honesty, and being direct and not overcharging for things are like the tenets that his whole business philosophy is built on.
Right.
So it's going to hit all of those things, right? And I don't use Floatplane, which is a streaming platform, but I'm sure it's good because I trust Linus to put out mostly good things, or if it's not good, to be honest about it and then shut it down quickly. So, which has happened. And I think having the YouTube channel really helps connect people to that brand. And I know you kind of disagreed, but I think that historical presence is also really good because if you find a brand new YouTube channel that you haven't seen before and it's in your niche and you want to learn more about that creator, and you go to the channels section, which I do all the time. When I find a new creator, I go and look at the channels and I see if they have this inactive gaming channel from 5 years ago, right? Or something like that, right? Just because I'm curious. And if I see that they have all these other channels, like the name totally escapes me, but he does biographics, geographics. He does like a whole bunch of like science channels basically. And if you go click through all of them, they're all basically the same thing, just specialized. But I know that if a new channel comes up and it has his face on it, or the, graphics thing at the end, then I know it's going to be quality content, and I'll watch it even if it's a topic I wouldn't normally be interested in. And because of that historical thing, I can go back and see that he has a long history of producing quality content. And for your company, if you can show that you have a long history of producing quality products, it's going to make the buyer more trusting, at least in my opinion. But there is one more thing I want to talk about with the historical YouTube, and that is videos continue to earn revenue every time someone clicks on it, no matter how old it is. And obviously there's going to be a downfall for most videos. They're going to make the bulk of their revenue in the first couple of days, maybe even first couple hours of being up. But some of our best performing videos are our best performing video, in fact, is one of our older videos, right?
How to part out sets on BrickLink.
Yes. It's not even close between that and the next video in terms of like gross revenue made and views. I think it's over 50K views now, which I'm sure there's some YouTuber watching who's like, I got that in 5 minutes. But you know what? I don't care. It's good for us. And that is like really cool. And it means that if you continue to post regularly, which is important, people are going to find your old videos and they're going to binge your content and they're going to watch it. And so you start building this asset. I don't want to call it passive income because that implies that you can set it and forget it, which you can't. You need to keep posting. But old videos continue to accrue revenue as time goes on. You look like you're ready to say a number here.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to say a number, but I was going to agree with you on that. And when you mentioned the passive, I was going to say you can, for the most part, to an extent, set like if you have an income, let's just say you're making, easy number, $100 a month on YouTube. If you're consistent with how you keep posting, theoretically that will go up as well. But like if you say, okay, I post one video a month every single month, you can continue to expect roughly, we'll just say this, $100 a month. As long as you're not like, just didn't completely stop. And that's if you have a library of videos that are going to continue to make a little bit of money. So just for the last 28 days, this last period, our number one video was still from February 17th of 2020, how to part out Lego sets on BrickLink. Even in relation to our most recent upload. Now, our most recent maybe will reach above that. I think it might because it's only like a day old or whatever at this point. But, but that one video is still
a consistent performer
every single month, and it makes a pretty consistent amount of money each month. And that video has beyond paid for itself. I'm not going to say a number, but in terms of like what that video has made and the time that it took to make that video, it is so worth it. Now, if every video is like that, YouTube would be very profitable for us. However, there are so many videos that are just a hit and a miss in terms of like the dollar amount that was made for it. What did that mean?
So someone will get it. Someone will leave a comment. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, there's so many videos that just like you try something and it didn't work and you made $7 on it and you spent 3 hours, and it's like, well, that was in no way, shape, or form worth it. Our most recent video, you actually had thought was not going to perform well.
So first of all, this is no insult to Evan's skill. I actually really liked the video when he showed it to me. But usually our more cinematic videos are kind of a hard flop. And so I was expecting this one to not...
And the most recent is the one that came out last week, which was expanding the garage again.
Correct. I had thought, because it's a bit more professional or a bit more artsy, or it's not... People really like this off-the-cuff kind of thing that we do, where we have a basic outline of stuff and then we just go. Those are our most successful videos. Our scripted content, usually not too good. This video is super scripted.
Yeah, 100% scripted. It was shot listed out. I knew what I was getting. Yeah. It was actually like a script, like I pretty much said exactly what I wrote on the paper.
It's also the only time I've been pinged in Discord multiple times to be told congratulations, and then I answered with I didn't make it. But I was pinged in chat saying, hey, this is like the best video that you guys have made yet. And I was like, all the props goes to Evan. But I honestly thought it was going to be a flop. And then it's one of our best performing videos on release. We'll have to see how it ends up being after it's had time to chill.
It might be our number one video on release, potentially.
I would assume so, because the how to part out thing came out when our channel was still not the size it was today. But it's still just... I was sure it was going to be a flop. Now, then again, thinking about it now, people have been requesting the store tour for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And this kind of was a store tour. A little bit has same vibe. So maybe it fulfilled that niche. Who knows? So close. Million. We got to get to 1 million
We're almost
views.
at 1 million views.
I completely lost my train of thought.
We were talking about like a quote unquote, very, very rough quotes here, stable source of revenue. Because it kind of is if you're consistent and you're posting, let's say, weekly. We have great experience with this. We see an instant drop.
We are
maybe not instant,
awful.
But we see a pretty decent drop. It's like all of a sudden we didn't post something because we skipped a couple weeks, we got so busy, whatever. It's like, wow, you just see that number tank, and all of a sudden, the amount of money you made this month is so low compared to what you would have expected on regular months. So now we've gotten kind of back into, we're really trying to post weekly. We do a couple of these podcasts a month, we do a couple of videos a month, and we're trying to do a week roughly. And as long as we get back to that as a good thing, we're going to be back to that consistent amount of money. We can expect X amount of dollars in our checking account every month, because with give or take, of course. But
an example to prove that rule, when we did our daily vlogs on our trip, the whole channel saw a very short-term revival, not just those videos.
Yeah.
But all videos started performing higher. And that lasted for a couple of weeks after we started posting daily. But it was like day and night. I think like 2 days into the daily vlogs, the whole channel just kind of came back. Comments started, more comments started coming in, more likes, more views, everything. And so it was,
you got to keep talking.
Yeah, I know. I suck so much at
writing.
multitasking.
Here, we'll explain. I was writing a note to Paul, and he was reading the note as I was writing it, which is not the way to do it. You're supposed to wait till I'm done and you finished your thought, and then read the note that I typed on the sheet for you.
I was even about to just start reading it out loud, and so I had to stop myself. But I was. Now I got to explain everything. This podcast is going for a bit long. I don't think we're going to be able to finish it. So I asked whether we wanted to split it into 2 parts. Evan said no. So then I was going to say, okay. But now I might as well just tell Evan, okay, fine. We don't need to split it into 2 parts. No, I don't need to take a break. Well, see, I just didn't want this to be 2 hours.
You wrote this when you did your little cough attack thing over there. So I thought maybe you just needed a break and we were going to shoot half this and shoot the other half.
No, I just, we were limited on film time here. And so far, I was a little worried that this wasn't even going to hit an hour, and so far we're about halfway through and we're at an hour.
I think we're less than half or more than halfway through, because the rest of this actually is relatively straightforward, because we don't, you know what I mean?
Okay. We'll have to see then.
This is
that we might right here.
Nope,
right here.
Nope.
If we cut it, it's going to be right here.
Well, you're still here and we didn't cut, so if you look at the time left on this video, it's the same one. Our next little section here.
Oh, no, we're not done.
We're not done? Okay.
No, we're not. We still have to talk about search recognition.
Oh, sure.
Another thing that the YouTube channel...
Pro.
Oh, yeah, another pro. Wow, we went in a big tangent there. Another pro is it provides free SEO. For those of you who don't know, SEO, search engine optimization, is basically the chance that your name is going to come up, usually your website. But for us, I'm calling it our brand, is going to come up when you search for us. And YouTube is great for that. Our channel comes up. Even in incognito, etc., our name comes up on Google with the YouTube channel. And so, is that our website?
Yeah, actually, our website is number 1, apparently.
What?
That's cool.
It must be all the scammers.
I wouldn't recommend going to our website.
No, neither would I. The only people that go to our website are people that want to email us about awesome business opportunities.
Oh, right. But yeah, essentially, if you create a brand, you have videos, you have different things, you will show up on Google. And if you have a variety of things, you will come up in hopefully the uppermost tier. It's also something important. Like if you create a name for your business and there's already an existing business out there, that could be a problem. Now you're competing with someone who directly has something, maybe totally different market, but you don't want to have someone like let's say there was Just a Brick in the Bucket that is us, and then there's Just a Brick in the Bucket, and they are a
cabinet maker,
wall building company. They lay bricks to build walls and houses and foundations and stuff. And if they already have a big web presence somehow for whatever reason, and we now are competing directly with them, that is very hard. So now they have to search Just a Brick in the Bucket Lego to find us. The easier you can make it for your customers to find you, the better. And I think for us, YouTube and having this brand has helped drastically with that. We've done absolutely zero SEO in any degree, like quite literally nothing.
We also have a very unique name, though.
We do. That is true. Very true, actually. Yeah. However, well, I won't continue to go, but there's other things too where you don't have to search Just a Brick in the Bucket and we will still come up. If you search, from my memory, I'm not doing this now, but if you search how to make a BrickLink wanted list, we come up. If you search how to sell things on BrickLink, we come up. This is just on Google,
it's
not
actually
on YouTube.
Awful. I hate Googling for a tutorial and our own video comes up because I know the answer's not in there.
Right. Sometimes we're looking for answers on a more complicated thing than we've made a video for, and our stuff comes up. It is actually a little frustrating. I agree. But yeah, showing up on Google is very important because that's where the majority of people search for stuff. And if your brand is the top 10 results, you're golden. They found you, and you're in the way of anyone else. Of course, if they just search something generic like Lego or BrickLink, it'll be hard. But if you can pop up, that's good. And YouTube has been a drastic help for us in doing that. I think
we got to compete with Just Another Brick in the Wall. So that song.
That's true. The last thing on our pros thing is kind of serving. And we kind of talked about this when we have kind of a network, but we get a lot of info about new products in our niche, in our industry. A lot of people reach out to us and they have a new thing and they're like, hey, do you want to try this out? It'll be this thing coming out eventually, but I have a phone application. You want to try it? We get a lot of stuff like that. So we also not only get an idea of like, or not only get the privilege of using that stuff ahead of time, but we get an idea of like what is coming for the entirety of the industry. You know, things like, I don't have an example,
Instabrick was one.
Sure. And yeah, maybe that was the beginning of us saying, okay, this is a, Instabrick in that specific sense. This is an AI thing that's going to take a picture, compare it to a database, and try to figure out what this is. That was, at least from our perspective, from what we know, the beginning of what's the app?
I know.
BrickMonkey.
Yes, there we go.
BrickIgnize. There's other ones out there too that all do the same thing, but in my opinion, maybe it didn't, but from our perspective, it started with Instabrick. So we actually knew like 2 years ago that we're like, okay, this is going to be very big in the next year or two. Yeah. And it really has blown up in the past few months, and past year or so.
The same thing happened. BrickMonkey did reach out to us in advance.
Mm-hmm.
BrickIgnize, unless I missed an email, I don't think did. But I mean, no shame on them. It's kind of just random chance. But the thing also that I more meant by this bullet point was we see things because people talk in spaces where we have the ability to look, right? Like in the comment section of our YouTube videos, where people do reach out to us via email, but also people mention things offhand, like in our Discord. They might mention something about a new color. We now, instead of being late on the game, at least now are up with everyone else in our Discord, right? So we've created this space where we don't necessarily need to actively go out and do research. We don't need to spend our time. I mean, we still do for some things, but a lot of stuff gets flowed to us that we don't need to spend resources on checking, right? Sometimes deals come up in our Discord, which we're able to look at, right? We can see that someone in the Lego, like the building part of our Discord, might mention that there's a new set coming out that has X color in it, and then we can maybe say that, oh, this color is probably going to crash in value, right? That necessarily hasn't happened, but it's just an easy example of we get that forewarning, and that has been. There have definitely been times where we have heard about something via Discord or via YouTube comment, which did have an immediate and almost instant impact in terms of how we run our store, or at least we started prepping for something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that is invaluable. And I would say, in addition to the networking, one of like the main reasons is to having this online presence and stuff is being able to just watch. I mean, that makes it sound like we're spying, which we're not, but it's just we're present in all of the community. Obviously, we're present in all the communities that we build. And so when people talk there, we see it. And that's kind of how information gets funneled. Now, the question that I think a lot of people might be asking for is, should you start a YouTube channel?
Right.
First off, I'm going to say, if you are starting a YouTube channel for your existing business, probably not. But there's a lot of caveats there as to why you might want to. But we talked a whole lot about the investiture and the reward and stuff. And I think in general, that's going to hold true. Whereas if you want to make money on YouTube and that's your main goal, and you already run another non-YouTube business and that business does well, stick with that. But if you have the resources and you want to diversify into a completely separate thing while still having your brand name be associated with it, like if you want to make money and you want to set up basically a separate department, which is a media department, which makes YouTube for the sake of YouTube, then you can totally do that. And you're probably going to need to handle it separately. Our YouTube channel is, I mean, obviously there's only 2 of us, but it's basically managed separately, right? It kind of ties into what we do in daily operations, but now that vlogs are gone, it's really not, right? The YouTube is kind of separate, and I think that is probably the way to go, unless you have a very interesting, very advertisable, very story-based process of your daily routine that can be easily converted into a video format. YouTube is best kept as an almost segregated thing that draws resources from the business.
Yeah, but also I'd say you could use YouTube as a marketing point.
Absolutely.
In which case you have to deeply integrate yourself with your business.
Absolutely.
And then that's you saying, okay, we are, I don't know, releasing this new car. I don't know. Maybe you're a car manufacturer, but you don't advertise. I don't know. Was a bad. It doesn't work with a cabinet shop because you don't want to use YouTube to advertise to your local market, which I think maybe should be said as well. If you're only selling to a small group of people in your local city, YouTube is probably not going to be the way to go.
But that's from marketing. I was saying in terms of drawing direct revenue from YouTube. But yes, we can jump to marketing, which is I just wanted to iterate there in terms of setting up YouTube for marketing versus setting up YouTube for direct revenue. But yeah, like a car.
Yeah, direct revenue, don't expect it to be a big earner unless you treat it like a separate business.
Yeah.
For sure. But using it as a marketing tool, I think you just need to be more strategic with how you do it, but it will end up tying in to your business. But again, also don't expect it to be a big earner as a marketing tool ever, I would probably say.
Actually, I would disagree. I think if you're running YouTube as as built for marketing, as in you're running your channel purely to promote your brand and you target specifically for that.
But YouTube's not going to make the money.
Yeah. I'm jumping now.
Oh, hopefully your business makes the money.
Yes.
From the sales that it's generated, but YouTube itself is not going to be a big earner.
I think we've gotten confused. I have now exited talking about direct earning revenue and jumped to using YouTube as a marketing tool.
Okay. I don't know where I was going with this anymore, to be honest, but if you're using it as a marketing tool, you have to keep in mind you have to probably sell at least nationwide or preferably worldwide because anyone on YouTube can see your stuff. If you're only selling it to like your city, you make cabinets, you install them locally, that as a marketing tool, YouTube's not going to be your best friend. Unless you are actually making it commercial and you're paying Google to advertise it on YouTube or something only to your local city. But that's an interesting way to go for sure.
What about the wreath supply people? Do you think that, because obviously their channel makes a lot of money, but do you think that it probably drives a lot of sales?
I'd say that's the majority of what their channel does. That's why I kind of compared them similar to us earlier, where the percentage that they make directly from YouTube is very small in terms of their global revenue for their entire business, but the traffic that it pushes is pretty high. They can also probably see the traffic because they're selling on their own website. They have surveys and things, and we're selling on BrickLink, which is a platform which doesn't allow us as a seller to really get any good analytics on who our customers are, etc. But essentially, I would compare, and I'd say they for sure, they do a lot of product reviews too. Things like that, where they're giving tips and stuff on how to create a better reef tank or whatever it is, but they're selling these products and they're saying why these are good. They do like tests where they take 10 products they're the same product, but they're from all different companies, and they do comparisons so you can see which one you might be best for what your situation is. But all that drives a significant amount of traffic to their website. So that's, I think, a marketing tool for them for sure.
Something else that you need to be aware of with YouTube is simply sticking up a 30-second long logo is not going to gain any traction, right? You need to be able to tell a story, and you need to be able to answer a question. And this ties into both creating YouTube as a standalone business and creating YouTube for your business, as your content has to be engaging. And I guess if you do want to start YouTube purely as a YouTube channel, don't expect it to be a get-rich-quick scheme. I think influencing YouTube, all that kind of stuff, is often sold as a get-rich-quick, or at least get-rich easily, which I don't really think that it's any different than any other type of business. Sure, there are those people out there who randomly go viral and stay viral. There are a lot more people who randomly go viral and don't reach enough subscribers to be monetized. They just have one, video and they make no money on it, right? Or they stay viral for a little bit of time, they spend all their money, and then they're no longer viral, right? But if you want to build a consistent and engaged YouTube channel, I think you have to treat it just like a business of any other type, where you're selling a product. That product is engagement.
Yeah,
really.
and I would say it's no easier.
No.
And potentially harder.
I think totally depends on the business.
Because there's a lot. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of competition on YouTube.
Exactly.
And there's the ability for someone to click away. We talked about this in our little pre-talk thing. If you are a business and you create a really bad product, or maybe not really bad, but not a good product, you create something that's pretty cheesy, but you market it right, you will still make a lot of money on that product. People won't come back and buy that product a second time, but you've now made a lot of money. You could make a different product. You could get rid of that product, whatever. If you make a bad video, people have not necessarily paid, say, $5 for that product. They've paid a cent, or they actually haven't paid anything, but you've earned 1 cent from that click. And now they know, I don't like that. It's a very different return than if you create a bad product. So it's a little more risky, I think, in the sense of when you do something bad or you do it wrong, you're stuck.
Yeah.
If you don't have a reputation of creating good stuff and then you get one bad thing and they're like, whatever, and then they come back for the next thing, you have that problem. So in that sense of the product you're creating, your quality level, I think, needs to be there. Not in terms of it looks like it costs $50,000 to shoot and write and edit and everything, but in terms of you're providing value for whoever is sitting there, whether that's entertainment value or knowledge or whatever it is, that needs to be in every video, especially when you're starting, which is, in my opinion, pretty difficult and a hard thing to do, especially if you're in a competitive niche like gaming. That's like such a risk. I mean,
unless you're, I'll quote iDubbbz here, unless you're MLG Pro or the most entertaining person on the planet, gaming is not going to make you any money. You can't be, you have to be selling either something that no one else has, skill, or you have to be selling something that no one else has, personality. And if you can't do that, I mean, that's true for a lot of niches where you're, I guess, reacting to content. And I would say gaming is still reacting to content, right? You're witnessing something and doing something about it instead of the entire creative process. And I'm not trying to diss gaming, YouTubers. The ones that do it really well. I'm just trying to say that might not be the most optimal niche unless you go into it with planning, which is what I'd said about treating it like a business. Just uploading yourself playing. Obviously, I'm not a gaming creator, so I can't speak to this, but it's not 2012 anymore, right? Where you can just upload, a Let's Play series of you playing Zelda and, or you playing Minecraft and become the next Ant Venom, right? It's where...
That's a name I have not heard in forever.
He still makes Minecraft videos.
Oh, nice.
But you need to go into it with a business idea. You need to have a product that you're willing to sell. In this case, engaging Let's Play content, right? And you need to be able to rapidly shift to something else. And just like any other business, you have to accept that there are going to be parts of it that you don't enjoy, and that's just the cost of doing business, right?
And there's going to be failures too.
Exactly.
It's not going to be smooth sailing the whole way. You're going to try things and all of a sudden realize that didn't work, and you just have to shift another direction and do whatever was going well.
A podcast that I listen to a lot, the Abroad in Japan podcast. He's a video creator who makes a lot of tours of Japan, and he cycled across Japan. He does a lot of stuff like that. He was doing this podcast episode where he was talking about what % of ideas actually make it into a video, and it was he actually calculated, and it was almost nothing. Make it into a video, and even things that ended up all the way at the script level, a lot of them get thrown out. And so you need to accept that when you look at another YouTuber who is super successful, you have to realize how many things didn't make it, and that they probably felt defeated, at least at first. I mean, maybe people eventually get over it, but at first you're going to be looking at this and you're going to be like, this is a bad idea. This is a bad idea. I don't have any good ideas. Well, that's not true. You have one for every 100 ideas that is a good idea, and that's what you need to focus on.
Another thing is, and we're running into this now / will continue to be, you come up with a good idea.
Yeah.
And you realize you just can't do it. You don't have the means necessary to make it happen.
Exactly.
Which is always really disappointing, but you have to realize like, hey, I'll shelf it. Maybe we could do it later. Or maybe you've just come up with a good idea and it's going to sit and you're never going to do anything. But that's also fine. You know, like, don't get defeated in that sense too. We for sure, I guess our whole lives actually, or for a while now, have like always been like, oh, let's do this. Oh,
no,
it's going to be 40 grand. Dang it. You know, and we'll continue to run into that. You know, fortunately now we have more resources where we can do some cooler things, but you know, everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And that somewhere usually is not high up at the top.
And something I will also say, and maybe this is a bit defeatist, but stay within your means. This is something that's really hard for me, and something I've had to learn is don't try to accomplish something that's not going to work. Save it for later, right? If you know you don't have the budget to make this, like not just the normal business of go ahead and do it anyway, but if you know you can't make it good, especially on YouTube, then stick it in a Google Drive somewhere and come back to it when you can, right? Focus on, don't waste your time on something that you can't actually make, because you need to hit those content deadlines. Mm-hmm. And if you spend 3 years trying to make one video, your channel's going to suffer.
Right. It's not going to make back $10 million.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden you're fine for the next 3 years while you're trying to figure out your next thing.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned niches quite a bit. I think something incredibly important when talking about a niche, or if you're starting a YouTube channel, and obviously we don't have a whole lot of experience with this. You know, we have our channel, which is pretty dang niche. But in terms of past what we have now, we don't have much experience. But understand that not every niche or every topic you're going to pick is going to be a successful one. There is a vastly different payout, not only in dollar amount, but also in viewership for different niches. You could have a gaming channel, which is one of by far the lowest paying things, just because everyone tries to do it, and advertisers are not super thrilled or stoked about advertising on a gaming thing, since they understand that the market who's there maybe doesn't, you know, whatever it might be.
There is actually some reasoning behind that. Is usually gamers don't have a lot of money, or they know what they want to buy and they buy that. And also, gaming channels are way more likely to curse and say edgy content, and so it's a lot less friendly to buyers.
Right, which customer or advertisers may not want to be associated with.
Exactly.
And stuff. Yeah. So that's a really low payout. So it's like you could have 1 million views on one video in a day on a gaming channel, or you could have 100,000 views on, say, some how-to video, or something with a significantly higher payout, and that 100,000 views might make more money than that 1 million views, because the CRM is so different.
Yeah.
Or CPM, which is cost per mil, which is per 1,000 views, and it's like like say $15 or just a random number. That's how many dollars you earn per 1,000 views.
Yeah.
And from a gaming channel, it could literally be like $4 per 1,000 views. And on a business, or like one of the higher paying niches, it could be $30 or something like $20 plus dollars. Vastly different. So when you're picking something to do as a business, keep that in mind as well. You may realize you don't enjoy doing how-to videos though, or like documentary type things, whatever, So pick something that you're going to enjoy, but understand that not all videos are created equal. They're drastically different.
Yeah. And this is once again where it comes back around to, like every idea that we've thrown out there, you need to ask yourself, am I doing this as a hobby where it'd be nice to earn a couple $100 a month? Or am I doing this as something that I want to make money on? And if you're doing it as a hobby and you make a couple $100, I'd love to make a couple $100 off of my hobbies. Go for it. Have fun. Make the content you want to make. But if you want to run this purely as a business, even if you start off loving it, you have to have that committed follow through to do the things that you don't like. You might get tired of how-to videos, but if those are the things that make your channel lots of money, and your goal here is to make money, then you kind of just have to make them, and you have to find a way to enjoy it, or you just have to accept that you don't enjoy it.
Just like we don't always like fulfilling orders or dealing with customer service, whatever it is, we don't enjoy it necessarily, but you have to do it in order to do the grand business, which makes money. So, yeah. A big question I think we continue to have actually, is how do you actually make content? Or like, not how do you get a camera and set it up, and how do you set up a light, and how do you put up whatever, but how do you create content that is engaging, that is interesting, that is relevant, and that people are going to either watch and continue to watch, which will make you money directly from YouTube, or how do you create content that is interesting and engaging that directs people somewhere else, which will make you money from a sale on, say, your website or whatever. This is different or difficult. This is a hard question to answer. Something that we've found helps a lot, though, is planning our videos ahead of time. Almost never do we wake up and just be like, you know what, today I'm just going to make a video and not have a plan.
I can't think.
Actually, I don't even know the last time we did that. It's been forever.
Part out parties are really the only thing that would happen like that, and even then, those started to become way more ritualized as time went on.
They had a structure. There was an intro. There was here's bag one, and then a time lapse, and then get to okay, here's what we did. Now we got to consolidate. We got to do whatever. There was like very much a structure after we did the first one or two. So plan your videos ahead of time. And then ideally, you need to either tell some sort of story. There needs to be some
there needs to be
substance to that video.
Yeah.
Maybe your viewers have a question. Maybe people constantly ask you, how do you label your shipping label? I don't know. Answer that question. Preface your video with, this is the question, here's what we're doing. Or give them some other form of content that is substantial. That could be entertainment. That's what a lot of gaming stuff is. It's just entertainment based, where people want to watch it because they're entertained by what you're doing. That's fine, as long as you, as the person doing it, are being entertaining, you're being a character, whatever you need to do. People, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong on this, but people don't just watch someone live streaming who says a word every 2 minutes and it's like, dang it. Like, you need to be engaging.
That's where I was saying. You either need to be MLG Pro, in which case the thrill...
I just don't know what that... MLG, Major League Gaming?
Major League Gaming. Basically,
okay.
You need to be like in the top 0.01% of players, where simply watching, much like extreme athletes, simply watching another human being be able to do it is impressive in and of itself to get views. Mm-hmm. Or you need to be extremely, personable.
Gotcha.
Was what I was trying to say. Sorry, I should have explained that, because I know the average age of our viewership.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it until I just repeated it to you, and then I was like, oh yeah. So yeah, and that all that comes with planning generally. Try to have a consistent schedule. If you just post randomly, like twice a month, just whenever you want, sure, that's fine. But your viewers don't have something to look forward to, and they know is coming up. One of my favorite YouTube channels is Good Mythical Morning, and they have a very strict schedule, 5 days a week. It's like 3 a.m. or something like that every day, or 3 a.m. Pacific time. You can wake up and know they have a video out if it's on a weekday. And it's like that exciting thing to go through every single day with. Very strict regimen of how they're posting. We do not have that. We try. It's like Friday, we try to have some sort of piece of content come out. And Monday, we try to have a short come out at some sort. And then we try, and every first Saturday, roughly, of every month, we try and have a stream. It gives people something to look forward to. And it is a little sporadic, but it would be weird to see us post a video on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. People wouldn't expect that. And maybe you could use that to your strength as well. But generally, the way YouTube works is the algorithm stuff. Consistency is going to be a lot better than I did 5 videos this month and then 1 video this month and then back up to 5.
Now, I will say that's not actually true for every niche. And I do want to say this is some niches, like very, very long form content or very artsy, high effort content, seem to break this rule. I can give a couple examples of like Seth Sazine Talk, who's like a meme channel.
Mark Rober too. He posts once a month, which is not how YouTube should work.
And he's incredibly successful doing it.
Right.
And the thing is, I don't really know if I can explain how that works. A lot of those channels, though, if you look back at their old history, they did post regularly and they built the following. But like a science channel I watch, SEA, posts just whenever the video's done, and they get a lot of views because the production quality on those videos is just insane. And so they just start trending. Within the science community, not site-wide, but it's just outclasses every other content creator to the point where it just gets shared, right? And so if you're working in something like very artsy or something where it takes you a lot of time to make a video, you shouldn't necessarily be put off by that. And this is where the hard question comes: if you're actually that good.
And you also have to understand there's a risk with that, though, because not every single one is going to work.
Correct.
So you might spend a month working on this video really, really hard, and it doesn't pay out.
Correct.
So there's, of course, a huge risk with that until you get a big enough following where people will click it to look at it. And it may not be the most popular, but you're going to at least make your money back on it, or I mean, hopefully. Or overall, site-wide, you'll make your money on an average of videos. But that's definitely a risk for sure. But something with a lot of those big channels and the successful smaller channels is there's consistency, not in the posting necessarily, sometimes, or most of the time, but also in the style.
Mm-hmm.
So when you click into a video, like I'll bring up Good Mythical Morning, you watch the first 15 seconds of every Good Mythical Morning in the past year, actually almost ever. It's like the same thing in a good way. You know, it's same but different, but it's the same structure. And it's that consistency that you expect. You get a little intro, and then you get actual title intro, like graphical intro. And then you get into the content of whatever that video is. But it's very consistent. It's your viewers recognize it. They feel comfortable with it. They enjoy it, and they know what's coming. We don't really have that. You know, on a couple series things we do. With this one, we kind of do. We have 4-second little title card. Actually, I don't even think it's 4 seconds, but little music intro, raise up, hello everyone, welcome to BrickSide chat, where we have a little thing like that. So we have that at least, but you know, with the vlogs, it was like, hey, welcome back to another vlog. Today's Monday. Good morning. Like different things where we didn't have that consistency. What we have had that people say for a lot is we've had a relatively high production value, which is fair enough if you're comparing it to the other people within the niche sometimes. But if you compare us to a studio type setup where people are making, you know, it's a Lego person building in a studio, it's vastly not the same quality then. So there is a weird thing there, but you know, in our specific niche, people have seen that we seem to have quality, and that stands out as well. So focus on quality if you're trying to make videos as well, not just quantity.
Exactly.
Which is what we've tried to scale back from. We were doing the vlogs, which in my opinion were very low quality. They were always a mess. They were whatever they were.
But people liked them.
And people liked them, yeah. But it was also difficult to do. So that's why, you know, if the quality of content within your niche is low, then you just already stand out if it's a little bit higher. This is one where, you know, we wrote a bullet point here, which is for us an iffy one because, again, people don't seem to have loved it. However, the last video, like we said, was completely scripted. Use a script, but leave some flex room. Don't just go out and say, I'm going to make a video on how to do something, I want to make a video on how to part out sets on BrickLink, maybe. Don't start shooting and then figuring it out as you're shooting. Even way back when that came out, February 17th of 2020, you know, we probably shot that on like the 14th, 15th, 16th, something. There was still a lot of thought that went into that in terms of like, okay, I got to actually think how we do part out. So it was scripted to an extent of like, I know it was bullet pointed out. This happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Make sure you mention this, like little things like that. But if you script out your videos, at least in an outline format, you'll have a lot more structure to it than you have in the past, or than we have on certain things where you just didn't structure it out. Sometimes those are great too.
Yeah, it also gets a lot easier to go off the cuff the more confident you become in repeating the same facts over and over again. Because I bet you if you took some kind of advanced AI model and looked over our videos, there's a lot of repetitive content. Maybe not the exact words, but where the same concept is being expressed across several different videos in the same way. Not the whole video, just like little itsy bitsy sections of it. And the more times you repeat that and the more you become familiar with your own concepts, the easier it is to know that, oh, I just need to have a single line here saying talk about that thing. And then I can go off the cuff on that. But it takes time to build up that knowledge. And so I strongly recommend having an outline, but I also strongly recommend not scripting everything, because one of the things that bothers me a lot is when I show up to a channel and I can tell that they're reading. Mm-hmm. And some people are really good at reading off a teleprompter and not looking like they are. but most people, at least first starting, it's an acquired skill. So if you just have bullet points and that way you're able to talk naturally, I think that's going to come off a lot more professional.
Mm-hmm. It usually is, yeah. The key with that is hopefully you're not saying, like you don't want to, like we're doing it right now so much. You don't want to lose your train of thought in terms of the direction you're headed. So in that last video that we posted, there were 2 sections I had shot without a teleprompter. Now, I knew what I was saying because I had it written out and I just tried to memorize the script, but you can kind of tell, like I could tell at least. There's a few shots for sure where you're also like, okay, he's totally reading. But the outdoor scene where I was like leaning on the pile of wood, there was no teleprompter for that. I was going based off what I remember. Now, it was pretty much word for word of what I had written. And then I think the second shot in the thing, after we had cut away from the first thing, was also not teleprompter. Everything else was teleprompter. However, when I was reading the teleprompter, one, I had already read, I knew what was coming because I wrote the script, but also I was able to throw in little words and stuff to like add a little bit more to it versus just reading straight off a teleprompter exactly what it was saying and not changing anything, which makes it a little different as well. And that's where that scripted, I think in the past for us, has been hard, where we've scripted it and it just sounded scripted.
Yeah.
I'm actually very curious how scripted the last one sounded, since obviously I did it. I know that it did sound scripted to me, at least, since I know it was. I don't know how scripted it sounded. Obviously, there was a lot of structure to it, but I'd be curious to hear maybe.
Well, I will say there is a difference between sounding scripted and having the meta knowledge that it is scripted. For example, when watching another YouTuber, even if it doesn't sound scripted at all, there's just a knowledge that his word choice is too perfect to not have been prepared ahead of time,
right?
Or the jokes work just too well, or something like that, to be actually off the cuff. And I would say that's not a bad thing at all, because that's kind of just a note at the back of your head that, oh, it's scripted, just like when watching a movie. You know it's scripted, but just because it's scripted, it doesn't harm your ability to enjoy it at all. And
I think a big thing with scripting something is you are formalizing all of your thoughts ahead of time.
Yeah.
And like when I wrote that video, I wrote it a week or 2 in advance than when I shot it, which gave me a week or 2 to continue working on it and changing things and rereading it and going back and adjusting it, versus I've typed it out right now really quick and now I'm just going to read it, whatever's there. That's I think a big difference that, in my opinion, doesn't work super well. Not that we haven't done that. There's certain things. I can think
of a couple videos.
Yeah, like the majority of our videos are bullet pointed, the vast majority. But when you want to have an intricate, I want to say a different word than script, but when you want to have an intricate script or words that you're saying, shorts are scripted, of course, but it's also like 4 sentences. But yeah, we're moving into a little bit of scripted stuff, more scripted. And we'll see if people end up liking that. Because theoretically, the content can be higher quality because you can add more factual things that you don't have to remember off the top of your head, which is hard.
And I think another part of it is people might argue that when it's scripted, you lose the personality. But there's nothing stopping you in your own content from having a word-for-word script and then occasionally throwing in things if just while you're reading you think of something. Which I don't know if I've necessarily done that in a word-for-word script, but there are definitely times where I feel like something like that could happen.
Yeah, like I don't know if you remember, but the very first shot of the last video was all scripted until I said all the acro mills behind me, because that's what we use as our main storage method here, just brick a bucket or whatever I said. That was not in the script, but I felt like in order to tie it in, as I was reading and thinking, it just needed that.
Yeah.
But it totally could have been written in and it still fit and it didn't feel very different. From my perspective, I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree that if you can write a good script and you can present the script well, it's probably going to be better. But if you don't have any knowledge of how to present a script well and how to write a script, bullet pointing is probably going to start off with being higher quality because you're not going to come off as reading.
Something we have a hard time with in this podcast, like this is completely bullet pointed out. We jump around a lot, which makes it difficult because it's like we know there's a bullet point coming up in 5 lines, but we're talking about it now and then we get back to it. So it's hard to read along with a bullet point thing. But I think if you and I were talking in this and we were only looking at the screen and actually following along line by line, we could do it. But that's never how content's made. Rarely are you actually following line by line unless you're just doing a voiceover maybe or something. But you need to think of how it's going to sound and look natural. I guess what I'm trying to say here, very overall thing, is plan out the videos, whether it's a complete script, whether it's bullet points, whether you're going to shoot indoor, outdoor, whether you need a microphone, whether you need a light, whether you need to plan everything. What day it's releasing. Is there anything else coming out right before this or after this that I need to mention or reference? We don't shoot anything the day it comes out. This specific podcast episode is only 6 days before it comes out. That is so rare for this series. Usually we shoot things weeks or months ahead of time and we know it's coming out on this day.
For example, this one last time, and I normally wouldn't mention this, but because this episode is about YouTube, I feel like a little fourth wall breaking is in order. This episode was supposed to be a detailed budget. The budget's not done. That's why this is 6 days. I wrote this script yesterday when I realized the budget's not going to be done. And last episode, we had promised, or at least I think we had said something about the budget coming out.
Yeah.
And so now we're hoping that nobody's going to notice that. And that's example of poor planning. Had I planned better and known about the budget, either I would have known that it's unlikely I would have finished it and I wouldn't have mentioned it last time, or I would have organized the budget better to be done on time. And that's where the planning comes into, of setting expectations for your viewers is something we have learned is a very precarious science.
And we're really bad at it.
And we're really bad at it.
Really bad. Like that video that came out last week was actually supposed to come out 2 weeks ago, but it just we didn't have time to shoot it or edit it or whatever. And I had said it was coming out. So it's 2 weeks late now. Like it's a hard balance to.
It is. And also, once you promise viewers something, they're going to expect it, and they have every right to, right? I'm not trying to diss on viewers or anything. It's completely the creator's fault for either mentioning something that they shouldn't have mentioned and getting people's hopes up, because people have no way to know whether or not the thing has a 50% chance of coming out or a 100% chance of coming out, right? You never know. And so it's on the creator to have a good idea of this, and that's what the planning is so essential, is because once you burn that bridge, and we've burnt so many at this point of the videos coming out and then it doesn't, they're not going to be as sure next time. And you really want to building that anticipation, getting people to queue up, getting people ready and primed to click that video the second it comes up in their feed is going to help you get that initial peak, which is going to, if a video comes out and it gets a ton of views right away, it's going to stay promoted for longer. And so you want to build that anticipation. And if you don't plan well and you don't promise things to your viewers in a correct way, you're going to hurt yourself later.
Because you need to create something that makes people want to look forward to things. I think we screwed this up at the beginning of 2022, where we didn't come out with our monthly sales recap video for January.
Yep.
And then we didn't come out with it for February, but we said we were working on it. And those were actually both done. And then March came around and we said to everyone, okay, we're actually going to start doing a quarterly recap. And then we didn't. And I think a lot of people, we still get questions. Like, a year later, people are asking, when are the monthly sales videos coming out? And
we'll have an end of business sales recap.
End of business. So we stopped doing that, obviously, but that was something that we didn't do in a proper way. We took it away from the viewers, but we didn't say, hey, this is the last one. We said, oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming. Oh, it's coming. Oh, just kidding. It's not coming, which was really wrong of us. But for other business decisions, we felt it was the right thing to do, but we should have ahead of time taken our viewers' feelings into account and realized that to say January will come out eventually. Oh, February's coming. Oh, wait, we're changing it. It was a little wrong.
Yeah. You don't want to be like Firefly or the Sci-Fi Channel in general and just randomly halfway through an episode or halfway through a season just decide it's done with no notice.
Right. But I'm sure out of people who are watching, there's a couple of people out there who enjoyed After Hours. But a couple, exactly. But overall, as a piece of content and something we were trying to produce. It didn't really fit with what we do. People, for the most part, were put off by it or really didn't enjoy it.
It wasn't on brand.
It wasn't on brand. It didn't fit. So I think to remove that, I don't think anyone has questioned anything. It just makes sense that we remove that. We cut that off. We stopped it. But if we all of a sudden just stopped BrickSide Chat and said it doesn't make sense anymore, there's going to be people out there that are disappointed because for the most part, people enjoy this. Some people I'm sure hate it, but people enjoy listening to the long form content. This episode has been a disaster. So I don't know. People might hate this one. We've been
this
everywhere.
Is one of my favorite episodes.
Of course it is. It's been everywhere. But you know, if we talked about when we were doing, you and I pre-shooting this, we talked about having a variety channel. And if you post once a week, but every single week it is a drastically different piece of content, like crazy different, like you're not even the same character in each of them. And like one week it's just a documentary on fish. And the next week it is you taste testing every bag of chips that Lay's makes. And the next week it is you doing a podcast about cars. And then the following week it's a vlog of your daily life. But none of them tie together. That'll be a significantly bigger miss or hit or miss. Some of those might do great. Some of them might do terrible than a channel that at least has the same character playing with it.
And I do want to specify that is some people sell their character and their content is so different in terms of what they do. But they have this persona and you grow attached to the persona and you don't really care what the persona is doing so long as it's being the persona.
Right. And tying that back to what we were doing, that's where After Hours was like an attempt at, we still had the same, you know, you and I were still you and I for the most part, maybe a little looser, a little less corporate or whatever you want to call it, but we added some extra flair in there. And the viewers didn't take it well. However, we didn't just stray off the path and like all of a sudden release a documentary about flowers and how they grow in California and without us involved. That would be funny. But it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? Like we could. It's not going to destroy the channel. I'm sure there's things we could post that would destroy the channel, but a documentary about California wildflowers, it would be fine. But it wouldn't make any sense. And
No.
if you have a channel that does all those weird things, it's like, where are you going? That would be so bizarre. People may love it, but also there's probably not. People wouldn't catch on. So pick a niche, I think.
Yeah. Now, I will say one thing is if you somehow base your channel around the suspense of wondering what the next video is, right? Like, what are they doing this week? That is viable, but then you're still selling something.
Exactly. You're selling a mystery, and what are they doing? There are people behind it that you know to an extent. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
If so, you know, there's still something you're selling there. That all ties into if you're trying to make content, I think, as a business, like the YouTube channel is the business. You know, the marketing is a completely hard thing. You know, you're trying to sell a product, and we don't have a whole lot of experience with that because we're not really selling a product to the viewers who are watching our channel for the most part. Obviously, some people buy from us. Well, a portion of people buy from us because they found us, but it's a weird mix. I think in terms of recapping, you know, if you're an existing business and you want to start a YouTube channel and you're asking yourself that question, is it worth your time? In the beginning, it won't be, for sure. And financially, in the long term, it might never be from a direct sales point of what YouTube is generating for you. But if you can find a way to direct traffic from your YouTube to your store and you're getting sales that direction, then it could be worth your time.
I do have one last thing that I think we skipped over, is about niches and total audience capacity. We've inspired other people to start Lego YouTube channels. And as far as I know of, they don't have as many views as us. And I'm not trying to diss on anyone. What I'm trying to illustrate is it's possible that this niche is at max. We don't know that. But there's a certain amount of creators that can fit in any given niche. And the smaller your niche is, the harder it is going to be to break in. Because if people only are willing to watch an hour a week of content related to this, and that hour is completely bought up by one huge channel, not that we're huge, but maybe percentage-wise over a lot of other BrickLink channels we are, then you have to compete with that. And this is true for any niche. You need to be aware of the maximum size of the audience and make sure that if the niche is small, you have a plan to overthrow the competition.
Not even that. Let's say right now, today, we got 100% of the market share of the BrickLink niche. No one watched anyone else, and they only watched Just a Brick of the Bucket.
I don't know if the channel would be much bigger.
Exactly. I mean, maybe it probably would be to an extent, but there is also a hard cap, not only in competitors that you can squeeze into, but whether this is a viable thing to do at all.
Yeah.
Our channel can't grow that much bigger unless we branch out significantly somewhere else. You know, not like random, but like in the Lego direction most likely. But we're not going to have 1 million subscribers who want to sell on BrickLink.
Correct.
Because there are not 1 million people out there who want to sell on BrickLink. This isn't relevant to that many people. So you definitely have to think of that as well when you set up your niche. Are there enough viewers in general just to watch and for this to make any sort of money? Or is your business too niche and it won't be worth your time?
Exactly.
That's a hard question for sure, but that's a good reality check to have ahead of time.
Go hunt down the biggest channel that you know of in your niche and look at their subscriber count. And if it's, 10,000, even if it's 100, actually maybe 100,000 would be tolerable. But if it's not a couple 100,000 at minimum is what I would say, like 500,000-600,000 within the whole, the biggest channel within your niche, then you really need to be asking yourself, like, because depending on the niche, a few 100,000 could support a person, right? Depending on where you live and a bunch of other factors, but like that's possible. But if it's only a few 10,000 is the biggest channel in your niche, you really got to be asking yourself, like, could I live, even assuming a $15 CPM, could I live off of this?
Oh, I don't think there's a chance for that to be a business then, for that channel
exactly.
to be a business.
I completely agree. There's no way.
Maybe for a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Sure. Like we use it for to a degree.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're in this weird middle ground, but no shot 10,000 subs could get you a full-time income. Unless for some reason people don't sub, but they watch, which doesn't make any sense for the YouTube.
No, I can't think of any big channels where the watch versus sub count is off by.
I mean, it's usually off by a lot, but
that would have to be pretty extreme. To be making a full-time revenue from 10,000 subs.
Correct, yeah.
So just do a little bit of market research like you would for starting any business, right? If you have a product you want to sell, you need to ascertain, are there people that want this product? And depending on your niche, unfortunately, the answer might be no.
Yeah. I think we've hit everything.
Yeah. So hopefully this cleared up a lot of the questions that we've been asked about our YouTube channel, and maybe it's provided some direction for other people who are in their infancy of starting a YouTube channel. And I also just want to say, for all of the BrickLink YouTubers specifically out there who are small, Doug is the first one to come to mind, but there are a lot of other ones. Just because of what I just said doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, because I can tell that there's a lot of fun and energy that happens on a lot of these channels in terms of they enjoy doing it. And at the end of the day, that is important.
One of the most fulfilling things about this is creating a video or some piece of content that goes out there and people receive it well.
Exactly.
Whether it's the most popular or not, just seeing that 10 people were engaged with this video enough to comment and say, this is awesome, I love this, and all of a sudden you have a conversation with them, or they reach out to you directly because they found, like, that's what pays off.
Yeah.
I mean, not financially, but that is what pays off when it comes to, emotionally, when your time has been dedicated and you poured all your time and efforts into this, that's a good feeling for sure. So,
yeah.
And that's I think what you get when you have a smaller channel too, is you get a lot of that engagement. And a cool thing about a smaller channel that you lose when you get much bigger is that personality of the one-on-one interactions with people.
Yeah. We're still kind of in that golden zone where we know our subscribers, even some subscribers on a first name, real name basis. Mm-hmm. But if we were 10 times our size,
it'd be harder.
It would only be the people that were around from now and still were around then, that we still had that connection with, or maybe high tier patrons, or so maybe there's someone who's always there. But I feel like it gets way harder, and I admire the huge channels who do actually know their subs. I can't. That would be so hard. Yeah. The one last thing I do want to jump on though is, if you are in a small niche, it's likely that the production value on your competitors is quite low, depending on what the niche is. But that gives you an opportunity to just take a couple of weeks to learn basic filmmaking techniques. This goes for any YouTube niche. If you just have a basic understanding of how filmmaking works, it's going to enhance your content magnitudes over someone who just read one blog article or didn't do anything at all, right? Knowing how to focus your camera, knowing how to, not shoot portrait, those little things are gonna help you a lot. That was all I wanted to
I don't know. Everything's turning vertical again.
Yeah, I know.
9x16.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for this episode. This is the longest one I think we've had.
Yeah, and you were a little worried.
Yeah, we went a lot of different places with this one. This is a hectic discussion. If you're still here with us, thank you. And congratulations, you made it to the end. If you're watching on YouTube, as always, you can go listen to this on any of your podcast platform that you'd like. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, I can't talk anymore. It always helps us if you subscribe on there or follow along or whatever the button is that you can do. And then if you leave a rating or a comment, that's also really well appreciated as well.
Also, if you want to help the content engine, you can leave suggestions for questions that you want answered or just general topics you would like to see.
Yeah,
well.
If you want us to overdig. If you want us to overdig, it's a new word. If you want us to overdig into a topic on this podcast, let us know what it is and we will overdig into it.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. Thanks for watching or listening. We'll see you in the next BrickSide Chat podcast.
Goodbye.